You ever have one of those days where you think you're finally at peace, finally made it past the worst of it, and then, right when you're standing at the grave you never wanted to see again, you find a stranger there, weeping at your son's name? Yeah, that happened. Those boots, mine, stopped at the edge of the stone like I'd done 100 times before, leather shined, laces tight, not a speck of dirt on the heel. That morning, my coat fluttered a bit in the breeze, wasn't even cold, just my nerves reminding me I was still alive, though I'd spent years teaching myself to never let anything show. I don't cry at graves anymore, not since I buried my son. Josephine Vale, that's me, pearls too tight, beds too clean, walls built too high to remember what it felt like to kneel and really grieve. But there she was, a girl no older than 20, hunched beneath a twisted cedar, sobbing so quiet it cracked something dry and old in my chest. Her dress was a mess, hem torn, clinging to her knees, and her belly, full, round, rose and fell with every broken breath. I cleared my throat, voice rough, and said, "Excuse me." She flinched, hands clutching her stomach like she could shield the child from me. For a second, neither of us breathed. Then she glanced back at the grave. Ilya Vale, beloved son, a heart too big for this world. That hit me like a fist. No flowers today. I rarely bring them, but right then I wished I had anything at all to break the silence. She finally spoke, voice cracked. "I didn't know anyone else came here." I took a step closer, said, "Could say the same." Confusion flickered in her eyes, then fear. "You, are you?" I didn't have to nod. "I'm his mother." Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh, God." I sat down beside her, careful not to brush the stone. The ground is bone dry, roots curling up like ribs in the dirt. She wiped at her face. "I'm sorry, I didn't. What's your name?" I asked, gentler than I meant to be. "Clara," she whispered. I let the name settle in my chest. "How did you know my son?" She hesitated, stared at the grave like it might explain for her. "I met him at Sayre's Crossing," she said. "Worked at the inn. He was staying overnight, coming back from the border." That's something he'd never told me. Not the first secret. "Did he love you?" I asked, surprising both of us. She nodded, slow. "I think he did, for the short time we had." I could barely look at her. My hands shook in my lap. She added quick, "I'm not here for money. I just wanted him to know about the baby." I swallowed hard. "He doesn't," I said, standing. I didn't want her sleeping out at the grave. "Come with me," I told her. She protested, but I was already turning. Carriages just past the hill. She followed, dress clinging, not understanding if this was mercy, pity, or some strange penance. We rode in silence, my eyes trained on the window, her hands pressed to her belly. The Vale estate loomed like a forgotten crown over the hills, stone and shadow, and everything about it felt weighed down with old grief. Inside, it was colder. The maid tried to fuss, but I waved her off. "She'll stay in the east wing." Clara stood, alone, in a room that smelled of lavender, sheets turned down, water by the window. Neither of us slept. Near dawn I wandered to Ilya's old room. Nothing changed. Boots tucked under the seat, dust everywhere. I whispered his name. The first time in years it came out like a prayer. Sun rose without much light, just the tick of the grandfather clock. I sat in the drawing room, tea cooling in my hand, fire throwing strange shadows. The maid let me know Clara was awake. She came down slow, unsure, touched nothing. She sat, ate little. "How far along?" I asked. 7 months, she said, voice small. "No family." She shook her head. "Just me. Until Ilya." His name landed heavy. I just wanted him to know. "I'll leave if you want," she offered. Panicked. I stood, fists tight. My son rode to the border for a land deed. On the 5th day, they sent a telegram, ambushed coming back, no survivors. She whispered, "I didn't know." I nodded. "I didn't know about you, either. Or the child. Or who he was away from home." We sat in silence, clock chiming. "You'll stay," I said at last. "The child is his. That makes you family." Those first days were awkward as a truce. Clara stuck to the east wing, walked the orchard afternoons, always one hand on her belly. I went back to my routines, writing letters, ignoring charity meetings, taking tea alone. But the house changed, footfalls not mine, new sounds, Clara talking soft to the child. Some nights there was laughter, uncertain but real. 5th day, she found a box outside her door, tiny boots, never worn. No note. She cried for an hour. 2 weeks and we'd found a rhythm. Her walks, my tea. Sometimes we'd sit in the garden, talking little, but honestly. Grief mixed with hope. One day, I brought out Ilya's old things, christening gown, first quilt. I want the child to have them, I said. Clara whispered, you can know him. I couldn't answer. I was too full. But peace never lasts. A letter came, hand-delivered by a railwayman. News of a survivor from Ilya's regiment coming to see us. Kalbruk. He showed up 2 days later, lean, scarred, grin that never touched his eyes. We served together, he said. He saved my life, cost him his. Telegram said no survivors, but Kalb said, wouldn't be the first time the wires got it wrong. He buried Ilya himself, then promised he'd come find us. Left a journal, Ilya's handwriting on the cover. I let him stay, though I wasn't sure why. That night I read the journal. The early pages were dull places, names. Then there were mentions of Clara. She's not meant for polishing, he wrote. She's meant for quiet places and people who speak gently. I closed the book, my chest burning. In the morning, Clara met Kalb outside. You were with him? She asked. He talked about wanting to come home, Kalb said. You carrying his? She nodded. You treated right? Better than I thought, she said. Kalb's eyes softened. That woman's colder than mountain stone, but her edges aren't sharp, just buried. Clara asked, why'd you come here? Didn't want to be the only one carrying him. Later that week, a sharp pain took Clara in the middle of the night. Kalb and I got her help. Dr. Hemley came, said stress, not labor, but she'd need rest. That morning, I sat by her bed, watching her sleep, watching the baby move. For the first time, I whispered out loud, I'm still here. Days passed, Clara recovered. Kalb hung around the orchard. Helen Rourke, Kalb's mother, even showed up after years apart, her calmness smoothing over the rough edges in our house. Breakfast felt fuller, laughter came easier, and when Kalb announced he'd be leaving, it was Helen who told him, maybe what you need to finish is something you need to begin. He left anyway, though, leaving us to face what came next. Then came Charles Vale, my late husband's brother, contesting the inheritance. Claimed I'd let the estate go to ruin, that Ilya's death meant the land should be his. We fought him in court, every paper, every letter, every painful truth. Clara stood before the judge, told her story, told them all she ever wanted was to visit his grave. Kalb testified, too, said Ilya made him promise to protect Clara. The judge ruled in our favor. The estate stayed in our hands, at least until Ilya's son came of age. Charles was furious, called the boy a bastard, called us sentimental fools. But the court said, no, for truth. We rode home, silent, sun warm on our backs. You'll need a proper room, I told Clara, and a proper name for the boy. She named him Ilya's Rookvale. Just as we found peace, a stranger arrived at dawn with a warrant for Clara's arrest, old charges of theft and fraud. She told me her story, how she'd run from a banker's son who threatened her, how she'd only taken wages she was owed. I believed her. You're not leaving, I said. Not after all this. If the law wanted a fight, let them come. I wrote a letter to answer theirs, and the messenger left empty-handed. Weeks later, a horse arrived, no rider, bleeding from the flank, note tied under the saddle horn. Run. Then came mercenaries hired by the banker's family. But they didn't expect Kalb on the porch, me with a shotgun, and 6 neighbors emerging from the orchard, guns in hand. Turns out Ilya left more than land. He left people. The mercenaries retreated. That night, Clara rocked her son by the fire. Kalb watched the door. Helen knitted quietly, and for the first time in years, the house felt alive. I knew there'd be more storms, new names, new claims, new men with old grudges. But this time, we'd stand together. We'd teach Ilya's boy to be brave, and if that wasn't enough, we'd remind them, some roots don't tear easy. Now, if you were sitting at my table, I'd ask you, after all this, where do you draw the line between justice and survival, family and duty? Would you fight the world for someone you barely know, or would you run? Tell me, because I think everyone's got a story about what they do, but you don't really know until the wind's howling through the orchard, and the only thing standing between you and the end is the family you made, not the one you started with. So, what would you do? Let me know. I'm listening.